Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quentin Q. Crisco, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
And welcome back to another episode of Bears on Tap. My name is Quentin Crisco. I am joined by Mr. Sonny Verma. Sonny, how is a Bearsless Sunday going for you so far?
You know, it's one of those where we've won the last two games. So like I wanted to keep this positive momentum, and I hate that we didn't play this particular Sunday. But at the same time, you know, you have your bye week a little bit early, so you get a chance to go apple picking and all that kind of stuff with the family. Just knock it out early while it's not too cold outside.
Did you
and
go
so for that reason,
today?
I guess I can't complain.
Did you go apple picking today?
I didn't, but I'm just saying, hypothetically,
Well,
in my brain,
my
if
wife
she asked
did.
me, I would have said yes.
Okay. My wife did, so I was like, man, that is a bye week thing, I guess. But Sonny, before we get into our segment here, do you have any general thoughts you want to talk about for the Bears? You know, upcoming weeks, upcoming rest of the season, anything along those lines?
You know, I think I read a stat, and this was right before this show, so I can't account if it's correct or not. But between our last couple of head coaches, I saw that we were 2-10 coming out of bye weeks. Again, I don't know if that's for sure true or not, but that really had me worried. And it's
like,
one of those.
I can believe it with Flus.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure about Nagy though. Because I mean, let's just fact check that really quick.
Yeah.
I feel like we can find that answer pretty quickly.
While you look for it, I'll just kind of I'll talk it out. It's one of those where now that you have Ben Johnson, we keep talking about how things are different and how this team looks different on the field. Finally, compared to the yesteryears. And I think this is just one of those things. When the Bears hired Ben Johnson, all we heard about was his insane attention to detail. And if that's the type of case, I do hope that down the road, Ben Johnson is one of those head coaches where you bring up the stat every single time. Ben Johnson off a bye week, you give him 2 weeks to prepare. He's got a very good record. So that's just something that I wish I hadn't seen right before we started recording. And I guess you're fact checking now, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears were 0-4 under Matt Nagy. The first year under Nagy, that was the game in Miami where they lost by 3 points. Like that was, such a bizarre game, and went to overtime. And then in 2019, the Bears played the Saints, lost by 11. I remember that game distinctly because I bet more than I would typically bet on the Bears to win. And then I tried to cover my ass with it for like the whole game and just ended up losing like every single bet I placed. So I will never forget that game. 2020, they got destroyed by the Packers after, I want to say they led at halftime in this game, I think. It was Nagy's third season. And it was like, okay, they showed life here. Good. And then the Packers just killed them in the second half. And then 2021, they lost to the Ravens without Lamar Jackson, 13-16. It was Andy Dalton was in that game. Fields got hurt early in that game. I didn't even actually watch that game because I was out of the country for a wedding. But I remember like paying attention to it and just being like, this seems horrible. And then in 2022, Flus' first year, they played the Eagles really tough out of the bye, but they lost by 5. Eagles went to the Super Bowl that year. 23 they beat the Lions. 23 was the first time since Nagy was hired. And I assume they lost John Fox's bye week games too. That was the first time that they won after a bye week. They beat the Lions pretty good there. And then last season, Commanders. That was the Hail Mary.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, see, it's one of those, we know we've always had it pretty bad as Bears fans, but then you just happen to stumble across a statistic that reminds you just how bad you've had it. And it's just, please, Ben, please, Caleb, please save us.
Yeah, no, that's I always feel like you really get an idea of a coach's ilk coming out of the bye week.
Mhm.
Like, how much can the coach impact a game? I feel like a bye week is a great indicator of that. And truly, we saw Flues do some good stuff coming out of the bye. They were just awful football teams. And I'm not going to sit here and try to defend Flues, but they shouldn't have played the Eagles that close. That is a testament to to my opinion. Team should be winning coming out of the bye under Ben Johnson if Flues was able to get them, playing the Eagles that tight out of the bye.
I mean, I think we're 4-point dogs next Sunday, but otherwise, I mean, the schedule it's open for us. We kind of talked about this in the last post-game show, but the schedule is there for the Bears to be given an opportunity to try to rack up some wins. So, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. I'm sure we're going to do the preview sometime this week, but as you mentioned last week, out of the bye, you talk about that Commanders game. Now we have the Commanders again. It's a taste that all of us want to get out of our mouths. And if we all know that, I'm sure Ben Johnson knows that. I'm certain Tyrique Stevenson's going to know that. And hopefully they take care of business on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see a big game from Tyrique here, just based on how he's been playing recently. But and you're mentioning their upcoming schedule. So Bears have the Commanders on Monday night next week. That's gonna be a huge game, frankly. The Caleb versus Jaden Daniels stuff, the last year's Hail Mary game. I feel like, and they're at Washington. I feel like Washington is always going to be an interesting game for Caleb, being a kid from the DC area. So I feel like that adds some element of intrigue there in Washington. All the rumors about them potentially trying to trade up for Caleb in that draft because he's, a local kid and some of that stuff. But then after that, they have the Saints at home, very winnable game. They go to Baltimore, which they said Lamar Jackson's injury was a 2 to 3 week thing, but it's a hamstring, and those tend to linger. You might be getting a partial Lamar
Especially
Jackson
with his
there.
style of play.
Yeah, and their defense is just utterly decimated with injuries right now. I mean, they had a rough day today, and they're missing Roquan Smith, they're missing Kyle Hamilton, they're missing Nnamdi Metabuke, their star defensive tackle. Like, they are missing a lot of bodies, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Then they go to the Bengals, the Joe Burrow-less Bengals. Joe Burrow's done for the year. Bengals do not look very good right now. I mean, you're talking, and then after that, the Giants come to Chicago. You are talking about 5 consecutive very winnable games here, as long as you consider Washington in that category, where you could be talking about ideally a 7-2 team going into playing in Minnesota the next week, then taking on the Steelers at home, then going to Philadelphia, going to Green Bay, taking on the Browns at home, which that defense is disgusting. That's not a cakewalk by any means. Then you got the Packers at home, you go to San Francisco, and then you got the Lions at home. So the season after those next 5 games, it's a gauntlet.
Yeah, but all the more reason to take care of these next 5 games, because whether you're good or as good with the teams in that second half, you go 4-1 in this stretch. It's not just about talent. It could be just the mentality in that locker room. You're feeling good about yourselves, and that positive momentum can help you, reach other levels later on in the season, and have a confidence level that you can go out on the field and beat anybody. And so again, that's the type of stuff that we hope they can kind of instill over some teams that are going through injuries, which fortunately, find wood somewhere, knock on it, we're not dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, that's you think back to last year. I thought Washington had a top 5 pick roster.
Yeah,
going into the year, and I didn't think Jaden Daniels was going to be enough to overcome that. He clearly was. They went to the NFC Championship game. But that winning culture, that winning attitude took over that locker room, that belief that, they're just other men across from us and we can beat them. I think that really permeated in that locker room. I think it still is right now. And we're seeing them do good stuff. They went to LA today and kicked the crap out of the Chargers. the idea is that the Bears, as they can stack wins, if they can get this third win in a row here in Washington, you can build that culture and have that confidence permeate, and confidence breeds success. So I mean, real confidence. I'm not talking like false bravado, but like proven confidence that like, yeah, I know I can do this here, and I'm going to go do it. I think any NFL team that has that is always going to put up a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like college, right? Like for the most part, when it comes to the NFL, the talent discrepancy between two teams isn't that drastic. And when you're talking about, you have a quarterback who looks like he might be taking a legitimate leap in his second season, you have the hotshot coach that everybody wanted. And if he's able to rattle off 3 straight wins and, again, look good after the bye week, then slowly you're talking about 2 of the most important leadership positions on your team, showing, like that they've actually got the it factor. And then, yeah, that can kind of radiate through everybody else. A lot of players don't necessarily have that sort of it factor. So, like, sometimes they need it rubbed off onto them. Guys who might quit or give you 85 to 90% of their energy when the team is a 500 team. Well, now all of a sudden, they're going all out like everyone else. And that's why this Washington game is going to be so important. And I can't wait for that preview.
When you're winning football games, no one wants to be the guy who didn't do enough. And that, I feel like that, like, you can get into all the rah stuff and like, that they're doing it for each other, like the team aspects. But I think the reality of a lot of it is you want to be the guy that they won because you went the extra mile. And when you're winning, it's a lot easier to see that and take that step. But Sonny, let's go ahead and get into our one and only segment for this episode.
Bears Hot Takes.
I had to make a graphic just for it. This is a perfect time to use an explosion graphic. Sonny, our whole purpose for this episode is to give out some hot takes. When we say hot takes, like I'm going to go hot and cold on mine. Like they're aggressive, more aggressive, right? They're more like, this is a fact. Doesn't mean I believe it's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm talking hot takes, I'm talking hot takes, and I'm gonna come out firing with them. But Sonny, what is your first hot take for the Chicago Bears?
So again, hot take. I'm kind of jumping on your definition. This is something that I don't necessarily think is going to happen, but what I'm saying is it absolutely could. Except for this first one. This one absolutely is going to happen. So this is not a hot take. Rome Odunze. I started off last year's hot takes episode talking about Rome Odunze, and Q, he's my guy. I watched him in college. He was my favorite wide receiver on the board. I was elated once we got him, and so I'm not jumping off the bandwagon right now. He's got 4 touchdowns right now through 4 games.
I believe that's right.
Q, again, I'm not putting you on the spot. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you look up the Chicago Bears all-time wide receiver single season record for touchdowns by a wide receiver?
Yes, I can. I'll just need a moment.
Okay. I mean, it's...
Let's see. 13.
13, exactly.
Dick Gordon and Ken Kavanaugh in 1970 and 1947 both achieved 13, but those were in 14-game and 12-game seasons.
That's not my problem. Mr. Kavanaugh, I hope you enjoyed that record for the time that you had it, because it's time that Rome Odunze is going to break the single season record for receiving touchdowns for the Chicago Bears. And I know over the last couple seasons, we've been talking about DJ Moore breaking all these wide receiver records for the Bears. I think now it's Rome's time. You see the insane chemistry between Caleb and Odunze. And I think right now, and again, I apologize for making you look it up when I already knew the number, but 13, I think, is absolutely feasible. He's already at 4 through 4 games, got 13 games left to get 10. Look at that quick math right there. I think he can do it, and I think he will do it. This is not going to be a hot take. He's absolutely going to do this one. What do you think?
I mean, I think you look at the way that Caleb has real chemistry with Rome and trusts him. Like, there's DJ Moore is always a lightning rod, right? But I've noticed something, especially the last like 2 games, where like I don't think the relationship with DJ and Caleb is poor. Like at the end of last game, you saw like Caleb on the bench trying to like figure something out, and DJ just came up and gave him a hug out of nowhere. Like maybe it's for the camera, I don't know, but like I don't think their relationship is poor, but their chemistry is not strong on the field. Rome and Caleb's chemistry is on the spot, it seems like, and Rome is the guy that Caleb will find when he needs to find someone. So to me, that red zone, that's when defenses are throwing the toughest stuff at you. You have the condensed area of the field. Everything is much smaller. All the windows are much smaller. There's a lot more hands up in the air, a lot more stuff closing in on throwing windows. That's where he seems to really, that trust really seems to show out with Rome. And that's like, I'm with you. I think Bears are going to be throwing the football. Rome is going to, he doesn't come off the field, I don't think. Yeah. Like he's not coming off the field for Luther Burden or anything like that. So I think Rome has every chance.
And we talked about chemistry right now. And the thing is, like, you and I notice it and most Bears fans notice it. But the guy who brings it up more than anybody else, I feel like, is Ben Johnson. He talks about in almost every press conference when he's asked about the two, he talks about the insane chemistry that he sees. And Ben Johnson's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing. If that connection works, he's going to keep going to that connection. And Caleb, he's gotten much better with the longer throws this season. So, regardless of, the red zone, what you're talking about was absolutely correct. But we've already seen Caleb and Rome connect on longer bombs. And I think he can, when he hits 14, we can look forward to a couple of those thrown in there as well. So, it's just, I was surprised it was at 13. I thought maybe it'd be a little bit higher, but then I remembered I'm a fan of the Chicago Bears, and it's not like we're an offensive juggernaut by any stretch. So that's my first hot take of the show.
All right. I like it. Now, yours, I'd say that's more of an optimistic hot take. And I'm going to take one that's a bit more, I'm going to start with one that's a bit more, I guess, cold take. But my first one, and again, you want my full disclosure opinion, go to OnTap Sportsnet, read the O-line articles, go to our YouTube channel, find our offensive line breakdown videos where me and Ron go through everything that we see throughout the game. But for a hot take, Darnell Wright needs to be better. He's the most talented offensive lineman on the field. And in a vacuum, yeah, he has been the Bears' best offensive lineman. Like for the last 2 years, possibly 3. Joe Thuney's now probably the best, but like from a physical standpoint, from a pure ability standpoint, it's right. It's clearly right. And, just being the most talented guy isn't enough for this team anymore. He needs to find ways to cut out the penalties, be a more consistent and disciplined run blocker. And injuries are what they are. I love that he battles through them. I love that. But this is his 3rd year where we're talking about an injury with Darnell Wright. That bothers me some when it's a guy looking for a new contract coming up here in the next year or so, which I think you want to keep Darnell Wright on this football team, but it is okay to want more from him because he can be so much more than what he is currently. And when you're talking about a 3-win team, a 5-win team, a 7-win team, sure, he's the best offensive lineman on the field, and you're like, we love like Darnell Wright rules. But when your aspirations move up to playoffs, he starts to look to me like a guy who is not getting the most out of his ability, and that I want more from him. I want to see him become what he can become. And again, like I said, the injuries, they are what they are here. We'll see where that ends up the rest of the year. But going forward, I hope that he really buys into the coaching and his own development, because I feel like it has been kind of slow-moving development for his career.
So my question is, and again, you would probably know this answer better than I would, is Darnell Wright is, 24 years old? He's in his third season.
Third.
At what point, like, are there stories now of guys who, when they're 25, 26 years old, take a leap when it comes to offensive linemen? It's one of those where I feel like I hear this all the time about Darnell. So are we at the point that he just simply is what he is, just a above average, maybe borderline good offensive lineman, that he doesn't have it in him now to reach another level? Or do you think that there are cases where guys in their mid to late 20s, all of a sudden work on their weaknesses and develop to reach a different level?
I think there are absolutely cases where that happens. Like I can't exactly sit here and cite you guys, but like, I mean, hell, it's a little different because Joe Tooney didn't come from he wasn't a first round pick, but Joe Tooney's an example of a guy who got better throughout his first few years. And like, to me, I look at Darnell and I'm like, he's a freak. He is just different physically. And to me, it's like a guy who's that different physically, it might take them a few years to actually start buying into, especially when you talk about the coaching staffs and the team success that they've gone through, to start understanding how to work. And there's something we talked about in the offseason. I said, the Bears need to go get some leadership in their offensive line room, because Darnell Wright cannot be teaching these guys how they need to work when they come in that room. Braxton Jones, the former 5th round pick who's making $900,000 a year, can't be showing this guy who just signed for $5 million a year how he needs to be working. And that's where they got Joe Tooney. They got Dahlman. I love that. I love that aspect. I think a big part of why you got Jonah Jackson in there is because you know the worker he is and the standard he's going to set within that room. I think this year is a little bit school hard knocks for Wright to learn that, because I don't think he really had that coming into this season previously, where there's a veteran there who has had a lot of success in this league telling him, hey, this is how you need to be doing this. And you need to respect that, because this dude's a dang all pro at his position. And he just played out of position all last playoffs and got to the Super Bowl and has 4 rings or however many Joe Tooney has. Like, that's a different aspect to me. And I think that is where that really starts to hit home with a guy who has all the ability in the world. And I don't think Darnell hasn't worked. I'm just not sure he's worked at things efficiently or the right way. And it's time to start figuring out the right way to better his game, because his run blocking shouldn't be this sloppy in year 3. It just shouldn't. He should be, and this part's speculation. 3 injuries in 3 years we've been talking about, 3 different injuries. I mean, they might be freakish, but I bet you if his technique was more sound, those injuries might have been a little less severe. So there's a learning process there. There's a kid comes in the league. He's always been really good at just playing football, and he's just going to play football. But after a few years in the league, the guys who really, like, you want to be paid like Lane Johnson, you got to work like Lane Johnson. That's the way I look at it, which doesn't mean he won't get a big contract. He will. But, like, will he get another contract after that? That starts to become a question. Or does he become like this isn't a shot at Kyle Long, but Kyle Long was such an athletic freak who always played a very violent game that wasn't as technique based as it was athletically based. Once some of those tools start going, or once your body can't handle that same grind of each game that you are playing up to that violence of, it's hard to sustain in this league. And do you want to sustain in this league? If you do, I think you need to find better ways to win on the football field.
Yeah, great point. It's the freakish injuries is something, and I'm curious to see if working in Ben Johnson's system that Ben and the offensive line coach can see something that the other previous coaches missed. But yeah, Wright is he's kind of like an enigma, right? Like, he can be the best offensive lineman on a lot of offensive lines throughout the league, but he just kind of settles for being pretty good.
Yeah. Well, from a hot take perspective, yes.
Fair enough.
Because I don't want to be blown out there. I do really appreciate Darnell Wright's play, and I do think he works hard at his craft. But I think it can be so much better than it is currently, and that's my first hot take there.
All right, Q, you always tend to bring down the mood, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it right back up with my hot take. Of course, all once again on the positive side. We brought up his name earlier on in the episode, and this is definitely a hot take, and I don't know what the likelihood of it happening is, but with the injuries that we've had in the secondary, one of the bright spots has been the play of Tyrique Stevenson this year, and how seemingly after he was almost ran out of town last year, in particular after that Washington Commanders game, he never really recovered last year, but this year he really seems to be balling. And so, you know what? I'm going to throw it out there, the positive vibes out there. I'm going to say that Tyrique continues. He makes up for last year with a great game against Washington, and he continues that momentum throughout the season, and he makes it as one of the representatives on the Pro Bowl team.
I love it. I mean, so full disclosure, I had a feeling that your second hot take was Tyrique, so I was like, that was my first one. Not that he'd be a Pro Bowler. My first hot take was Tyrique Stevenson is currently the best player on the Bears defense.
Okay, so we're not too far off then.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm with you. The last two games, and it's 2 games, right?
Yeah.
But hot takes don't care about sample size. Hot takes care about what's sexy. What's sexy is saying Tyrique Stevenson is the best football player on the Bears defense right now, and he has been shutting people down the last 2 weeks. I think he can continue this. Something has changed. I was messaging with my buddy Robert Schmitz like a week ago.
One of the GOATs.
Yeah, and he was saying, like, man, I want to know, like, what has changed.
Right.
Like, are they doing has something changed schematically? And he doesn't dive into the tape like he used to, right? So he was just genuinely asking, like, does anyone see, like, are they doing something different schematically, or like, is there something new here that is helping this change? And I found some differences. I'm not sure if any of them are the difference here, but he's playing almost exclusively on the left side this year. So that's the same side of the field as the right tackle is lined up on. It's like, so left side is on the offense's right side. Last year, his entire NFL career, he's played pretty much 50-50 split left-right. I'm not sure whether, more of his yards he's given up or anything is on the right side versus the left side. But I'd say it's notable that he is just playing one side. It might be something as simple as they put blinders on him and said, like, this is your side of the field. You are going to learn this and get comfortable with it, and we're not going to be flip-flopping you back and forth. It might be like, I don't know, maybe it's something as simple as the offenses they played the last 2 weeks have really stayed on the right hash a lot, which would condense the left side of the field a little for him. But really, some of his best plays though have been like crossing routes across the field. So that doesn't really even match there because we're talking man coverage with him. He has played some strong football, and I'm excited. Like if this level of plays at the last 2 weeks continues, like he was playing as well as Jalen Johnson the last 2 weeks.
Wow. Yeah, and again, it's a story that Bears fans, they got to be cheering for.
Yeah.
It's one of those where he could have kind of just given up, and I think a lot of people kind of said he may have last year with his mannerisms and just his unfortunate play. But obviously, he put his head down, and right now, as you said, I didn't even think about that. You're right; he is the best defensive player on this Chicago Bears team right now. I was thinking of it from a different angle, but again, I know he's got this game against the Commanders circled, and I really hope that he puts on a performance next Monday night.
Well, and if I told you before the season started, Tyrique Stevenson is going to start shutting people down, how would you expect that to look outside of the whistles on the field?
Yeah.
like a lot of jaunting back and forth with players, right? A lot of penalty flags being thrown because this guy is like taunting people. Like that's where my head is, at least.
Exactly. Let me spin that around. Like, if I had told you, and maybe this is too much on one side, but if I told you, here's $1 million, you have to get this right. It's either or. Tyrique Stevenson is the best player on your defense, or Tyrique Stevenson is out of the rotation. Which one would you have leaned towards in the preseason?
Out of the rotation.
Right.
I mean, at least before Terrell Smith went down. Like, yeah. I did not expect him to bounce back like this. Like, I thought going to a lot more man coverage was going to be beneficial for him in an ideal world, but like, we don't live in the world of ideals, right? So like, it's unexpected, and it's really impressive. And like, I can't help but think some of it, he's referenced this a few times, but having a kid has made him kind of see things a little differently. And I wonder if that's changed the work he's putting in outside of the facility, or the way that he's approaching it, of like, that rookie contract is nice. It's not going to set my kid up for life, though.
Sure.
Like, I mean, hey, rookie contract is probably like what? I'm gonna look it up. What Tyrique Stevenson's contract is worth? Like, even if it's worth like $10 million, like that's a great amount of money, right? Everyone would kill for that type of money, but it's $7 million, it's $6.5 million. Like, you take taxes out, you take agent fees out, you're talking what, $3.25 million, which is still, again, don't get me wrong.
I mean, Q doesn't get out of bed for that, but the rest of us, that's a lot of money.
I would do disgusting things for $3.25 million. But it doesn't, your kid's not set for life with that. Like, and your kids, your grandkids aren't set for life with that. Like, it's, maybe he already made a bad investment or something in a quarter that's already gone, like that's
not
how
generational
quick that stuff
money,
can happen. Yeah. So suddenly he's playing for, and this is pure speculation, but he's going into every day playing for his kid, his grandkids, his, like, how am I going to set my family up for success now, as opposed to just for himself, which I think I could see how that could change a player's habits that they might have not been as easily broken before.
Yeah. Either way, just whatever he's doing, he's got to keep doing. Second round pick, he's 25, so he's in the prime of his career right now. But what a turnaround! And it's just one of those where I hope he continues going, because if he does, he's going to be a large part of why this team has the potential of winning 10, maybe 11 games this year. And when we reflect back on the season recap episode, I hope that his name is one of the prominent ones, saying this is why the Bears had a lot more successful season than even we thought they were going to have.
Yeah. I mean, it's, he has to be one of the reasons.
Sure.
Like, after Jalen went down, it's like Jalen went down, Terrell Smith went down. I mean, you're starting Nahshon right now. He needs to be one of the guys that you're impressed with in this season for them to be successful. And I think that he realizes that, and I'm hoping it keeps up. But going on, so I had a backup because I thought Tyrique Stevenson might be one that we're talking through. So my backup is not as bright and sunny as my initial one, as my Tyrique Stevenson one was. But it's not necessarily doomer either, but it's just, it is a hot take that rides the middle in a way, which, you'd sit here and say, well, a middling thought is not a hot take. In a world where everything is black and white and everything is absolute, like Bears Twitter, like fandom, I think the middle is the hottest take you can get. So for me, this take is, through 4 games, we really don't know anything about this team. And this is what I struggled with this exercise. We were so early on the bye that, like, I was trying to sit here and come up with hot takes. Like, I just don't know if I know enough about this team to make some of these hot takes. So to me, it's that we don't know a lot. We saw them navigate some adversity against the Raiders. We saw him destroy a Cowboys team whose entire game plan got thrown out the window in the first quarter after CeeDee Lamb got hurt. So that is not very reliable data to me. The Cowboys one, at least. And I expect them to continue to improve and look better the further they get into Ben Johnson's offense and all that. But the last few years, this is a team that tends to count their chickens before they hatch, right? This is a team that tends to start celebrating before they've actually won anything. So we don't really know that they've changed yet. We hope they do. We see reasons to believe that they're different, like the coach, like the fighting through that Vegas game, I do think is a big positive flag for that. But it's a 17-game season. That's 1 week. So my hot take here is that we can't really say anything confidently about this team yet.
You're not wrong. I think we talked about this in that post game too. We've played 4 games and 3 of them, quite honestly, not very well. And we're very fortunate to be 2-2. Of course, I'm still going to lean more positive because I think I like the jumps that I've seen from Caleb and the improvements that he's made from last season. And where he already referenced the chemistry between him and Rome Odunze. By the way, not to go off tangent, but do you see Justin Fields today? I think he may have cemented his last opportunity to be a starting quarterback. And
were there 280 yards and 2 touchdowns?
I mean, you watched that wasn't 280 yards.
I think Bill Zimmerman had a tweet that was like, "These are his stats through the first 3 quarters," and this was this is his stats in the fourth quarter when he was trailing by X amount of points already. Like it was ugly. It was
okay. That's what that was referencing. Yeah, it's one of those that you had the Hall or Caleb. Right now, I don't think there's any doubt that Ryan Poles made the right move. But again, Caleb making his improvements. Rome Odunze, 100%. I'm calling it right now, breaking the record for wide receiver touchdowns in his second season as a Chicago Bear. And I think over the last couple of seasons, last couple of games, I've seen what a Ben Johnson offense kind of looks like. I think that's why this game is going to be so important for what we just referenced, coming out of a bye week. If Ben Johnson is the detailed, obsessed individual that we all heard he was, like, I'm expecting a pretty strong showing on Monday night. And so, yeah, you're right. We don't know what this team is, but the fact that the team has looked kind of bad and still 2-2, I'm going to kind of spin out positive, saying, hey, the team will figure itself out. And if we already have a start at 500, it can only get better.
Fun fact, I guess, coming out of the bye. Yeah, Washington. Who knocked Ben Johnson out of the playoffs last year?
No. Okay.
The Washington Commanders.
Yeah, you're right.
Who did Ben Johnson interview with and have some controversy about 2 years ago? The Washington Commanders. I do think that there's some interesting blood here between Ben Johnson and the Commanders, and I want to see him get the better end of that. I mean, we know there is for a lot of this Bears roster, for Tyrique Stevenson, for Caleb Williams, but I think that Ben Johnson might have some as well, and I want to see what he puts together when that is any degree of motive. I don't want to say the motive, but some degree of motive behind the game plan is, yeah, screw these guys. I can't stand them. Like, I think history tells us a little bit that Ben Johnson does do well with that stuff from his time in Detroit.
You're right. I didn't even think about that, but I mean, let's be honest, that may not be a good thing, just because we kind of hyped up how that matchup with Detroit was going to go, and it didn't go our way at all. So we'll see. Again, it's a game I'm very much looking forward to for so many storylines.
Yeah. Now, we're going to go ahead and get to some of the fan ones in here that we had. We posted this out on Twitter back on Friday, I believe it was, and we got some good responses here. And the first is from Seth Conklin here, that the Bears should elevate Breton Brown to see if he can get some movement in the run game. Sonny, do you have any thoughts on that?
Try something. I mean, you're more of the offensive line guy, but I don't know if, for me, not to sidetrack us again, but Q, are you surprised we didn't make a move for a running back during this bye week?
I'm still surprised they didn't make a move in the offseason, frankly. I don't know what's possible in season where you're saying, like, I mean, it's all possible, right? But like, you're a brand new offense. You're just starting to get stuff moving in the direction you want it. Do you want to throw a new body in the middle of that who doesn't know any of it?
Sure.
Detroit's not going to trade you a guy who Ben Johnson worked with before. And like, I mean, maybe you could like an Alvin Kamara or something, like played under Sean Payton. Like there's might be some familiarity there in scheme, but like it's not the same. Or like Denver's not going to trade you one of their backs. That like the Bears offense coordinator Declan Doyle was from Denver last year. So like it just starts to get tough where you're like, at what point is it worth throwing that wrench in to your offense? Say, well, we can't run these plays because this guy isn't ready for them yet. Versus trying to tough it out with the guys who do know the playbook and the plays and the concepts. And it's interesting because Ben Johnson has been pretty adamant out there that like he doesn't think DeAndre Swift is a problem. He thinks the blocking has been the problem. He's not shying away from there being a problem, but he's just saying it's not the running backs. So that's interesting to me too. Where like I mean, unless they can get like a Breece Hall or something for cheap, I'm just not sure there's a move to be made in season for running backs. It's your running back is so. Everyone says, the running backs don't matter. Running backs don't matter. Running backs matter a lot in pass protection. They really do. And so, like, when you're talking about protection plan, protection schemes, like, if you're training for a guy who's going to get a decent amount of run, you need to feel comfortable with him in those aspects. And I think that's a hard thing to just plug and play on your team where you're talking about protecting the quarterback at that point. Like, you don't see NFL trades that often because of chemistry reasons, I think a lot of it, and playbook reasons. And I think running back is central in that conversation.
And I do wonder if like the running backs aren't important. Like the pendulum has swung too far in one direction. Now it's almost being underrated for the things that maybe, like as you mentioned, not so much the running game, but understanding your blocking assignments and just the whole offensive scheme like that. But I mean, what do you think? What was your take on the question?
I'm okay with trying. Like Bertain Brownie's been there since camp. He was there for the install stuff. Like, sure, give him a try. I think Monangai has improved in pass protection some. Like in his limited opportunities he's gotten the last week or two, it does seem like he's become more trusted and started to get more chances to prove himself in pass protection, which that's the reason he hasn't seen the field that much. It's pass protection. Mm-hmm. Like the Bears call multiple plays in the huddle and they get up to the line of scrimmage and say, okay, well, this is the one we're doing based on what they're showing. You can't do that when your running back can't pass protect because if like you're not just calling a run and going and running the football at them, you're calling a run or a pass. And if that pass includes, if they look like they're bringing six, your running back needs to know where to be in the protection and you need to be confident he can execute. And that's where that all becomes tougher with a guy who has shown that he's not very good at executing that pass protection. I think Monangai has shown some improvement in the last weekend. I do think he's going to get more run here going forward, which interests me. He's still a 7th round pick. He's still like, not a exciting name by any means, but I think he can provide more than he's shown.
Yeah, he's one of the guys I think everyone's going to have an eye out on post bye week, just to see like, is this like, have they tried to work on him? Like, is there a focus on him, I guess you could say, during this bye week where you have the extra time to implement what he can and can't be involved with? I think it's pretty clear what the staff thinks of Swift, but Monangai is just, I think he's kind of like an X factor.
Yeah, like I like the way he runs the ball between the tackles. I like his vision. I think he brings a lot of good like stuff with contact balance and vision to the table. But it's more the fine details that you run into with rookie running backs. Travion Henderson's barely playing for the Patriots right now, and he was one of the best pass protecting backs I've seen come out. But that doesn't automatically mean he's ready for NFL pass protection either. Like it's a different battle. Like Monungai was fine in pass protection in college. It's just a different thing here.
Yeah.
And he had to learn that the hard way. But let's get to our next one here from Samir Patel, friend of the show on Tap Sportsnet contributor, as was Seth. Samir says they need to run more plays with DJ Moore out of the backfield, especially somewhere they motion him out to wide receiver. I would assume that means the opposite to where he's at wide receiver and empty and motions into the backfield. But that way they can always keep the defense guessing. What do you think of this one, Sonny?
I mean, the closing sentence is perfect. You know, DJ is such a weapon that, you know, the defense always has to account for where he is on the field. And so, yeah, I love that one just because, you know, he is such, you know, is he in the backfield? Is he lined up here? Is he lined up there? It's one extra headache that the defensive coordinator and the linebackers and everyone's going to have to account for, which leaves open opportunities for Rome to, you know, break the eventual record that he's about to break this season, or, you know, Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet, hopefully, you know, has a big bounce back game. But it's nice that, again, he has such a diverse skill set. Why not maximize that diverse skill set? You know, he's one of your best players, clearly. So you just give your best players the football. And, you know, whether that means lining up as running back or moving him around on the field, I'm with that.
Yeah, no, me too. I do think that there is probably a bit more of a learning curve than some of us anticipate with a guy who's never really taken handoffs at the NFL level, reading his checks and making the right decision. Like I think it was week 3 against the Cowboys. There was one DJ run where he had 20 yards if he made the right read, but he booted it out left instead of following the blocks, and it ended up in a loss. And I think that might have factored into us seeing less of him taking those handoffs in week 4. But as did, you know, other things like the game script clearly got thrown off pretty early. But yeah, I don't think that's a reason to not continue trying and making it work, because I do think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Q, just while we're talking about DJ, we had a comment in the chat. Why don't we address that real quick? Thanks for watching Breakdancer Kyoshi.
Yeah, so he asked, do they trade DJ Moore? And what do you think they get for him if they trade him? I don't think they're trading him in season.
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
Now that this team looks like it's going to, you know, at least be a competitive football team, there's no reason to trade a guy like DJ.
Yeah, and I have conflicting thoughts with things. Like, I do think DJ had some really negative moments last year, and early this year there looked like there might have been some, but also it does seem to me like when I see the limited opportunities we get of him and Caleb on the sideline, it doesn't look like two guys who don't like each other to me. It doesn't look like two guys who aren't getting along and aren't working well together. So, like, I don't know. I'm wondering if the media narrative has kind of gotten out ahead of too far of any issues there. But I don't know. I'm still not sure DJ has a place in this team beyond this year, just because I do think him and Burden are repetitive.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, if DJ's working hard and getting a lot, like, and the locker room's all good, there's also not a big reason to trade a good player. If you trade him, I mean, if you trade him in season, I think maybe you get a third, maybe a second. Like, I'm thinking Chase Claypool level compensation, where, like, it was probably should have been a third, but, like, 2 teams were bidding it up and it ended up being a second. But, like, to me, that's the similar place to see it, like, value wise, because that's a talented wide receiver who had locker room issues. And if you're trading DJ in season, that screams locker room issues. You don't know how that guy's going to get along in your locker room. And I don't think you're in a seller's market at that point. But in the off season, maybe you can push it up to a second. But, like, that also, I mean, he is, what's CJ, 28? Like, that has to factor into. I'm not sure what exactly you get for him, but I wouldn't be, like, counting my cards to be a first round pick by any means.
Yeah, I'm with you. But at this point, like, I would table that conversation for the off season. let's see what Luther Burden looks like the rest of the season. Obviously he had that fantastic game 2 games ago, but as long as you see glimpses of why you drafted Burden, when, let's be honest, that shocked pretty much all of us when you drafted him at that point. There's no reason right now to even think about DJ. I think DJ is also going to be a key for you to try to win 10, 11 games this year.
Yeah, agreed. Now, next one that we had on Twitter was from Paul, saying that Trapillo should start over Wright at left tackle, and they should trade Braxton Jones for a defensive end, making Wright the swing tackle. So he wants Benedict starting at left tackle and Wright to be the swing.
Again, this is more of a question for you, just because you are the tape guy. But for me, just looking at it from a high macro level, it's just hard to make these sort of drastic changes now. When you're 4 games, you're a quarter of the way into the season, you're asking new guys to learn new things, and you just got over your bye week, right? You have one more bye week left, but it's one thing if you make this move right at the beginning of your bye week. You give your guys 2 weeks to get acclimated. I just don't know if, these NFL trades don't often happen like player for player nearly as much as other sports, and I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and I mean, so I want to pump the brakes a little on Trapillo, because I do think
you are a buzzkill. I know, we've established that.
Yeah. I think about the same as about him from before the Raiders game as after the Raiders game. I don't think there was a ton to glean from that, other than that, yes, he was on the field and he wasn't a complete and total dire liability. But there was also a lot of help going his direction. It's hard to really get a feel for what he's going to be going forward just based on that tape. So I don't know. He didn't necessarily win very much. He kind of lost gracefully some of the times, but he's a rookie right tackle, 2nd round pick. That's the bar, right? You're talking about a guy who's not going to win that much typically. So that would be I'd have a lot of heartburn going that route, to be honest. And I don't know if this question was framed as, well, Wright's injured and he can be your swing as long as he's injured. That would make more sense to me, where you're saying, but the trading Braxton part, I don't see the benefit. I don't know why you're trading him, because you're talking maybe you can get a 5th round pick or a 4th round pick for him. So I'd rather have a quality swing, and I think Braxton is a quality swing.
I agree with that. It's just, at least he's familiar with what you're doing. And if you have an injury, you want to have a backup there that, because otherwise, if you get rid of Braxton, then all of a sudden, if you do have an injury, then what? Then you're really kind of putting yourself in a bind. And I don't think you need to necessarily lower your floor like that.
And then, so we're gonna let's get through these last few a little quicker, so we can make an hour on the episode and not run too far over. Next one from Matt Fleetwood is, Ben Johnson has so far been such a solid improvement that I think we've overlooked a lot of poor in-game management decisions he's made. What do you think of that one, Sonny?
I think that's fair. I think solid improvement is where I would have him. But if you recall, Q, I think one of the best episodes we had was after that Lions game. And we talked about how, we wanted to see so much more from Ben Johnson. And that in a lot of ways, if you hadn't told us about that head coaching change and we didn't get to see what the sidelines look like, that we wouldn't have noticed that there was a difference. So, but, I guess I am still just okay with it, because he is a first-time head coach. And this is kind of a learning process. I don't know how many head coaches out there just, started with, running right off he struggled, absolutely. But I think I've seen enough over the last 2 games, and maybe it's just the good, better, best that's won me over. But, he's not a perfect coach by any stretch of the imagination. But right now, I think his ceiling is much higher than anyone we've had since Lovie.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the criticism's generally fair too. I mean, I assume this is mostly about like not kicking out of bounds in the first game in the fourth quarter, which is I don't know, I think that's a tough argument for me to get behind that you're just giving them the ball at the 40 no matter what. Like so I get it where you're saying you're asking the coach, can you do it? Yeah, he can do it. Okay, then do that. And it didn't get done, but like, and now you know.
Yeah.
And some other like in-game management things. I mean, I guess maybe some of the fourth down decisions have been questionable, but to me, especially in the first game, that's like I got that. I was like, you're setting the tone for your team of what the
Right.
expectation is in this spot, and I like that aggression. So like the analytics support it, so I'm good with it. So like but that stuff can be much more, you know, eye of the beholder type situation. So I can see how you might get a little questionable on some of that, but I'm generally okay with what I've seen from in-game management, and we'll find out more about where it is. You know, the guy's gonna be here for a while, so we'll see if that's something to continue watching or not.
So let's just say through 4 games, what grade would you give Ben Johnson?
B minus.
I'm
I think yeah. I think a B minus is fair. I wouldn't go to a C. So if there were no plus or minus, I'd just say a B. But like, I think he's done well. I think that the job has turned out to be a lot bigger than anyone realized from a culture perspective.
Sure.
From a wow, this building stinks of losing type thing. I think that has turned into a much bigger project than anyone realized when they took this job. But I think he's doing a great job at turning that around. I just think that limits the grade, I guess, to an extent.
And I think that's something that us Bears fans don't quite realize, right? It's one thing, we see other quick turnarounds. We saw what happened at Washington last year, and we're like, wondering why can't that be us? But
ownership change.
yeah, I mean, exactly right. It's one of those things where that's so beyond the control of just one individual that some of these processes are going to take more than 1 year, and that's why I can't put too much weight on Ben Johnson, like not fixing everything 4 games in.
Yeah, agreed. Now we got 2 left here. I think these will be a little quicker. So this one from NGC 2237. Letting Andrew Billings get fat was a mistake. He had more impact when he was more mobile. Sonny, I'm gonna jump on this one.
Please.
Yes. And I wouldn't frame it as letting him get fat. I would frame it as asking him to add mass, because I thoroughly believe that this was a request of the team. You need to be bigger because we need you stuffing up run lanes. And I think that it has impacted his balance. I don't think he has as much burst or lateral range. And I think that he's not the same run stuffer that he was previously. I also think the scheme does not play to his strengths as well as the one gapping Eberflus scheme did, where like you look at Andrew Billings' combine, dude has burst for days, straightforward burst, but he can't really move laterally. And that's all this defense wants him to move laterally and wants him to get into blockers and hold the point and read and dictate from that. Reading's harder to do when you're a shorter defensive tackle. You get better leverage, but your eyes are just at the pads more often than they're above the guy blocking you. You're not seeing stuff out as quickly. I think that's tough on Billings too. So like, I think there's a lot of factors as to why he might not be the same player that we expected him to be from previous years. But I do think the added mass is a negative for him on the field from a personal player standpoint.
Yeah, that's as good of a guess as any. Last year, we were talking about Billings the way we're talking about Stevenson right now, when it came to like his early season impact. And obviously, he got hurt, but something's not the same. And whether he got fat or he added mass, whichever it is, it looks like it's a move that didn't work out in anyone's favor.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he still has some impressive moments out there, but he has more clear losses than we've ever really seen from him. And I think that is a factor of it. Now, the last one is from I'm Little John. Little John. Yeah. But
What?
exactly. Or okay, I guess I should say. But Caleb Williams is the best running back on the roster. Let's see more empty.
No. I love Caleb, and I love that he's instinctual, chaotic. Like I think he's got good. He's a better running back in chaos than I think that he would be in a structured play. And you can't risk losing him to injury because you tried having him run 4 or 5 yards more than he needs to. That arm is just way too valuable.
Well, so I think I'm gonna push back a little though, because the first part of his statement, I'm like, no. And the second part, I'm like, I see. Okay. Empty. Let's see him more empty formations without a running back. That's where you can motion DJ more in the backfield. It's where you can motion DJ out, which gets you favorable matchups in the box, where you can say, okay, well, we got 5 blockers. They've only got 5 guys in the box now. If we can get a hat on a hat and I don't see what I want, then I can go into chaos mode and scramble. Like I like that. I like the idea of more empty. I'm not sure it fits what Ben Johnson does because he doesn't really run a spread offense like that. He could, they might be installing some more of that, but typically Ben Johnson is much more run the football play action based, and that's not the empty stuff. We see it on third downs from him some and stuff like that, but it'll be interesting to see how they intertwine that if they do, because I do think having DJ Moore as the potential running back does make that kind of interesting. So I'm for integrating more empty in the offense. I'm not for deeming Caleb your running back and designed runs, because I think that is, to your point, dangerous.
Yeah. For me, it's just simply, I like the leaps I've seen from Caleb right now. I want to keep him upright as much as we can. And maybe, once or twice a half, you do some kind of designed rollout or designed QB keeper. But beyond that, just continue, take advantage of what his best asset is, and that's his arm. If you had Justin Fields back there, of course, try to figure out ways to put your quarterback in a position to do what he does best. Justin runs the ball really, really well. Caleb, I think he's a good runner, but it's not his strong suit necessarily. Like, his arm is his strong suit. His slot is his strong suit. The trust that he's developed with Rome this year. I want to keep developing that before I put my quarterback in positions that, he could get hurt in.
Yeah. But Sonny, I think that wraps our hot takes. I think we're all set here. So why don't we get out of here with a good old fashioned bear down, and we'll close it out.
Love it. Football next Monday, Washington Commanders. I'm going to be a fantastic preview episode. Make sure you like this show. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and Q, bear down, sir.
Bear down.